Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Eddy. I lost over 125 pounds. I've kept that weight off now for over 22 years. So I lost my weight when I was 19 years old. This channel is all about helping you guys get to the same place. If you are in a situation where you need to lose weight, I talk about mindset, lifestyle, weight loss from the perspective of me over the last 22 years, kind of honing everything that I've learned, tweaking and learning, as well as my science background and having been a personal trainer working with people one-on-one as well as a nutrition coach. So today I want to talk about how I transformed and some of the key elements that I think are important for any kind of transformation. Now, there are a lot of people who want to lose weight, and you might think, well, I don't need a transformation. I only need to lose 10 or 15 pounds. That's a transformation, because if you're trying to lose 10 or 15 pounds, chances are you've been either trying to lose that for a long time, or you've maybe lost it, but then you've gained it back again. And there's an underlying reason why you haven't been able to keep that success or haven't been able to lose the weight and keep it off. And so that's really what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to get into a couple of little things. This isn't scripted or anything, but I do have some notes that I'm going to be looking at here on my computer. And so the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the psychology of starting small. Now, if you've been in this channel and you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm the anti-challenge guy. I do not like challenges. There's a reason why I don't like challenge for weight loss. You can do a challenge for a lot of other things in life, and maybe that's something that you enjoy, but I like to think that if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to lose it for life, and a challenge is not going to help you get there, because you're going to do something for 14 days or a month or 2 months, and then you're going to go back to who you were before. And so the missing ingredient is true identity shifting and true change, which is what's going to enable you to not only lose the weight, but to keep it off, more importantly, for a lifetime, so that you can have the same story I did, where it's like, yeah, I used to be overweight, but that was 10, 15, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. You don't have to worry about, gaining the weight back and going all over and starting a diet all over again. If you're tired of starting all over again next week, next Monday, then this is for you. And this is how you're going to really find true change. So the core idea behind the psychology of starting small is doing what you say that you're going to do is going to build self-trust. And what I mean by that is, if you tell yourself, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m., but then you don't do that, then you're reconfirming to yourself that you can't hold true to what you say you're going to do. And so if, on the other hand, you say, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and you do that, then you all of a sudden prove to yourself and confirmed that you're able to do that. Now, if you do that every day, then obviously that starts to become a habit, and then your behaviors are going to change based off of those habits. Everything is going to change, and you're going to end up being the person that you want to become, whether it's financially, whether it's with work, career, or in this case with weight loss and getting healthier overall. Now, there's research on this. Science tells us that self-efficacy, the ability to be able to take care of your stuff and do things on your own, right? It shows that your confidence in your ability to act grows when you complete small, achievable tasks. Now, why is that? Why is it that you're going to get more confident by starting and finishing these small tasks? Well, the reason why is because the more you do something, the more you get used to something. Just like you drive to work every day, or you do anything every day, you brush your teeth every day, you don't have to think about it because you just do it every day. It's part of who you are. And so the way that you got to the point where you don't have to think about brushing your teeth and how you do it is because you do it every day. And it's a small thing, it's a small task, but you do it every day. So you've gotten so good at it that your brain is like on automatic, on autopilot when you're brushing your teeth. Same with driving to work or driving to some place that you always drive to, right? And so how do we change ourselves from the inside out to get us to a point where we can lose weight and make good decisions and eat healthy? And let's not even talk about losing weight right now. Let's leave that to the end. That's a result. We're talking about being process oriented and focusing on the things that we need to do. If I start small and I say, I'm going to switch one meal every day to something healthy instead of something unhealthy, right? I'm not gonna, let's say I have a Happy Meal or a meal from McDonald's, and I've got a regular Coke and I've got a double quarter pounder with cheese and I've got fries. Maybe you stick with the fries and the double quarter pounder with cheese, but maybe you get the Diet Coke to begin with, and you start there. And then maybe you do that for a week or two. And then once you get consistent with that, maybe you say, all right, now instead of getting the fries, I'm gonna get the Diet Coke, and I'm going to get not the fries, something else that's healthier. I don't know what's healthier at McDonald's. A salad, I guess. Watch the dressing. And I'm going to get my double quarter pounder with cheese. And what I'm saying is you're changing things little by little only once you establish consistency in these small little things. I know that this seems insignificant, but the way that you build trust within yourself and the way that you prove to yourself that you can do something is by doing that thing over and over and over and over again. That's the only way that you can build trust in doing anything in life, is by proving to yourself that you can do it. And so if you can start small, then that's easier to prove yourself that you can do it. And so what I tell people is, for example, start with one small commitment. Don't start with 3 or 4 things, and then you're going to be overwhelmed because you only hit one of the 4, and then you feel like a failure, and then all of a sudden you get feelings of guilt. You get feelings of the fact that you're not good enough, or that you don't have the consistency, or that you don't have whatever it takes to lose weight, and so you end up giving up. And so on the reverse, if you actually start small and you say, I'm only going to do this one thing, and I'm going to focus on this one thing, I'm going to get really good at this one thing for a week or 2. Maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month, however long it takes for you to get good at that one thing. And then once you establish consistency with that one thing, then and only then do you add the second thing. And then you establish really good consistency with that second thing. So now you've got 2 things, and little by little, you're starting to change. What's your life going to be like in 2 months, in 2 years, in 20 years? And so this is how you start a transformation, and this is how you end up going through and changing who you are from the inside out, is by starting small with these small, tiny habits that seem insignificant, but over time, you're proving to yourself that you have self-efficacy, that you're able to do these changes. And the more you do them, it's not going to be that hard to do them because they start to ingrain themselves as habits. Research, I think, says here that it takes about 66 days on average to form a habit. And consistency matters more than intensity. This was a study back in 2009 on habit formation. So it takes about 66 days. There's a lot of numbers out there. Some people say it takes 3 weeks. There's a book by Charles Duhigg, I think it is, I think it's called Habit or Habits. And it talks about maybe 3 weeks. So there's a lot of different numbers out there. But the point is, you have to do something long enough consistently for you to be able to build it into a habit. And then that just becomes who you are. And so the way that you stack on this, one on top of the other, is by getting consistent with that one thing and then adding the second thing only when you've got that one thing figured out. Don't take something else away, or don't add another thing if you're not figuring out that one first thing that you started with. So what I tell people is, if you're going to start doing anything, let's say you're going to start hitting a certain amount of protein every day, right? Don't say, I'm going to hit X amount of protein 7 days in a row. Why not say, I'm going to do it for 3 or 4 days this week? And then next week, I'm going to do it for 3 or 4 days again. And then once I'm consistent with doing it 3 or 4 days a week and hitting my protein goal, then and only maybe will I say, all right, I'm going to add a 4th or a 5th day or a 6th day, right? But you don't have to go to this level of perfection and this all or nothing mindset. As a coach that coaches a lot of different people, the number one thing that I notice in my clients is that they have the all or nothing mindset. They tell me, I've tried this before, and for some reason I always fail, or I always end up going back and reverting back to what I used to do. I'll do it for a month or a few weeks, and then I go back. The reason why is because they started to do everything all at once. And so that's not an effective way of changing. In order to change, in order to transform, you have to do it one step at a time. You have to get consistent with that one thing, and then, only then, do you add the second thing and the third and the fourth. And next thing you know, in 6 months, you've changed completely because you've probably added 4 or 5 different things. And not only have you added them, but you've become consistent with them, and you've proven to yourself that you can do it. You've changed from the inside out. So 6 months later, even though it's not fun and it's not glamorous and it's not what marketing tells you works, marketing tells you that you can do this diet for 2 months and lose a ton of weight, and you probably can. You can fast. You can do intermittent fasting. You can do the carnivore diet. You can do the keto diet, whatever. Pick any diet. They all work if you do them consistently. They all work. Are they all healthy for you? No. It depends on you, and it depends on your biology and your preferences, and they might not all work for you. But the number one thing is consistency. And so if we look at the common denominator in getting and changing your weight and changing your future so that you're a healthier person, the common denominator in all of that, in that whole entire process, is consistency. So have that as your sole focus. and then break it down a couple levels and say, how do I become consistent? The way you become consistent is by starting small and by building consistency every single day. And the way that you do that most effectively is by starting with one thing at a time and then adding the second and then the third. But get consistent with one thing. Pick one thing that you know that you can be consistent with. Pick the easiest thing that you think you can be consistent with. But do it. Hold yourself accountable. Be consistent. And then once you've got that figured out, then and only then do you add the next thing. I'm going to go. So a perfect example is when I give workouts to my clients, I say, how many times are you working out right now? Strength training a week. They say, no, I haven't done it in a long time. Okay. You know what? We're going to start with 1 day a week. And they say, no, but I can do 3 days a week. I know you can, but we're going to start with 1 day a week. Why? Because they say that they can do 3 days a week and they'll do it for a week or two. But inevitably, 100% of the time, something comes up and they can't, and all of a sudden they go once or twice a week instead of 3 times a week. And then what happens is they realize, oh, I'm not good enough. They get that feeling of guilt and they say, damn, I said I was going to do 3 times, but I only did once this week. Something's wrong with me. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't have enough willpower. I don't have whatever, fill in the blank. You're fine. You have everything that you need to be successful. The problem is that you haven't had the right system in place. The problem is that you haven't been given the right guidance. You've been looking at all the marketing on social media and on TV and everywhere else, and you're not getting the right system in place. And so the first thing that I do with my clients is we put in a system in place that's going to enable them to make these decisions very, very strategically so that they're set up for success. There's a lot of other things that go into that system, but starting for the purposes of this video, we're focused on consistency. The way you become consistent is by starting small and building on that consistency and proving to yourself. Again, the theme of this video, which I wrote down here, doing what you say you'll do builds self-trust. If you want to build self-trust and you want to build a new identity and you want to prove to yourself that you can become this healthier, stronger, leaner version of yourself, then you need to prove to yourself that you can become that person. And the way that that process of change starts is by focusing on one thing at a time, picking that one thing and going from there and building a habit and building consistency around that one thing. Now, let's say you have built some consistency and you're doing this one thing, you're hitting your protein target, maybe four days out of the week, and you've been consistently doing that for maybe a month or so. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is how you need to celebrate those wins. You need to celebrate the fact that you've been able to do that because it's not easy and not everyone can do it. And so you need to celebrate the small wins. Make sure, and there's science, dopamine reward pathways light up when we acknowledge the fact that we've made progress. And what happens when dopamine is the reward center in our brain, it's a neurotransmitter that is kind of released when we feel like we've got a reward, when we did something good. It's the same thing, unfortunately, that gets released when people do drugs. And that's why they have a hard time kind of getting off drugs, is because they need that dopamine hit. They need that neurotransmitter floating in their brain. Feels good, right? It feels like accomplishment. So when you stick with something and when you have built consistency and when you've noticed that, hey, I've been doing this for a month or two now and I'm pretty good at it and I feel like I can add that second thing, celebrate that win. Make sure that you celebrate yourself. You pat yourself on the back and you make yourself realize that, you've made progress. You have to acknowledge that progress. And chances are, if you've been doing it consistently, then that's just a part of who you've become now. And you're not going to revert back to who you were because it's just, you've done it for so long now that it's become automatic. Whether it's 3 weeks or 66 days, however long it takes, everyone's going to be a little different than in terms of their own case, I think. I don't think there's any specific number of how long it takes to build a habit. We're all very, very different. And the human body is so incredibly unique for all of us. And so if you can celebrate that, celebrate the fact that you showed up, celebrate the fact that you hit your protein goal 4 or 5 days a week consistently. Hold yourself accountable to that, but then also celebrate it on the back end. If you celebrate your small wins, then you're going to motivate yourself to continue to have more small wins. And it's just all of a sudden this snowball effect where all of a sudden you have a win and then you're celebrating that and you feel good and you feel motivated and you get more dopamine in your brain and then you're like, all right, I got this. Like again, when you tell yourself I got this, what is that? That's self-efficacy. That means I feel confident that I can do this. I feel confident that I can be consistent with this. I'm going to celebrate that. And now I'm going to tackle this other thing. I'm going to add this other thing. I'm going to start to work out 3 days a week, or I'm going to start to work out once a week if you haven't been doing anything at all. Go from 0 to 1. No need to go from 0 to 3. All right. If you're at 2 days, go to 3 days. That's fine. But take a small step and build consistency before you take this giant leap where you're going to set yourself up for disappointment and you're going to set yourself up for that all or nothing mindset trap. You don't want to be in that all or nothing mindset trap. This is a process. We're going to be process oriented. We're thinking about what we need to do day in and day out. We're not worried about weight loss. We're not worried about the result. The result will take care of itself. If you focus on the little things that you do day in and day out, the result will take care of itself. I can promise you that. When I was losing weight and I had to show up at the park and start walking, if you know my story, and you can go back and look at the video of my story and how I lost weight, but I started by walking because I couldn't run. I was too heavy. When I started that, I knew that I wasn't going to see a change in a week. I knew that it was going to take longer than a week or a few days. But what did I do? I showed up every day and I told myself, I know I'm not going to see a change every day, but I know that I'm going to see a change in a month. I know I'm going to see a change in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months and so on. And so I told myself to zoom out, and I had a big, 50,000 foot view of the entire process and of the entire journey. And your journey is going to look very unique to you based on your lifestyle and your goal. If it's 10 or 15 pounds or if it's 150 pounds, you have your own unique journey. Celebrate the fact that you get to kind of go on this journey, but also celebrate the fact that you're going to do this based off of a system. You're not just going to do it all at once and then fail and then fall back and then go back and forth. You're done with that. That's in the past. You've tried that and it didn't work. That's why you're here listening to this video, is because you've tried everything that they've told you, that they've tried to market to you, and it hasn't worked. So why not try to start small? You have nothing to lose. Build consistency, build these small wins, celebrate those wins. And I can promise you that if you focus on the process, the results will take care of themselves. So let me give you an example of what this looks like, right? So for me, when I was losing weight, I started by walking, and I told myself I was going to walk every day. So I started walking, and I wasn't able to walk that much at the beginning because I was very, very heavy. And, I was almost 300 pounds. I was 297 pounds. And I remember that I couldn't see my feet. My legs would get tired. My feet would get tired if I would walk too long. And so I would go to this park by my house here. I grew up in Miami, where I currently live. And I would walk, and I was doing like 2 laps at first. To give you some perspective, at the end of my journey, I was doing 10 laps a day, twice a day. So I was walking a lot because I had some free time. I took a semester off from school. That's another side story, and you can go watch that video if you want. But I started off with 2 laps because that's all I could do. And then I built consistency doing those 2 laps. And then I started doing more. And then I started doing more as I could. And then eventually I would run a little and then walk a little, run a little and then walk a little. And eventually I ended up running 5 full marathons years later, and relay races and half marathons and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of running anymore now because it's hard on the joints and the body. And I do more lifting and strength training and mobility and other stuff that are better for me now in my early 40s. So I don't do any long distance running, but I started small. I didn't start by running a half marathon. So many people, and you know this, there's like that couch to 5K, right? So they wanna get motivated, and they wanna go from being on the couch and not doing anything to all of a sudden doing a 5K or a 10K. Well, guess what? A lot of those people end up getting injured because they're not used to moving their body in that way. And if you're heavy enough and you try to go from doing nothing to doing a 5K, which is about 3.2 miles, 3.1 miles, you're gonna get injured probably. The likelihood of getting injured is very, very high. Start small. You have no expectation or goal that you should set yourself up for. You just need to start small and be consistent and build. You're in the mentality of building. You're building consistency. You're building habits. You're building this new you, this new identity, this new life. You don't have to worry about, answering to anybody in terms of timelines or in terms of anything. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Push that all to the side. You've done that in the past. You've said, I'm going to do it in a month, or I'm going to lose weight before this event or this wedding or whatever it is. And maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But the point is, you're here because you need to lose more weight. And so it hasn't stuck long term. This is the way it's going to stick long term. If you're familiar, I've kind of mentioned James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, which is a great book. I've mentioned him quite a bit on this channel. One of the things that he says, this is from his book back in 2018. He says that identity-based habits stick better than outcome-based goals. Basically, don't think I need to lose 20 pounds or I need to lose 200 pounds. Instead, think I'm going to start to do these things based on my identity. I'm going to do identity-based habits. what does a healthy person that is at my ideal weight do today? I'm going to pick one of those habits and I'm going to start to do that. And I'm going to build consistency off of that one habit. Copy people. In a previous video, I said, look for someone that you feel motivated by, that you're like, oh, I want to have his body. I want to look like him or her. I want to have that kind of physique. Find out, do some research, think about, and look up what they do and just take one thing and implement that one thing. Be actionable and build consistency with that one thing. And then next thing, you can kind of add that second thing and then that third thing. And then once you're focused on that identity-based habit and those small little changes and you build consistency, next thing you know, you are that person. I can guarantee you, because it's what happened to me. Right now, the person that is standing here doing this video, and that's for everything. That's for starting a YouTube channel, right? I started a YouTube channel a little over a year ago. I had no idea I would have over 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for people who watch this video, who share it, who comment. Like, I had no idea that I would have over 2,000 followers, almost 2,500 followers at this point. I started a little bit over a year ago. But what I told myself is, I'm going to get better at every video. I'm going to build this thing. And it's the same thing when I lost weight. I'm going to one step in front of the other, one step in front of the other. I'm going to get really good at building that habit. And then I'm going to do something from the nutrition side. I'm going to, instead of doing, Caesar dressing, I'm going to do it with no dressing, or I'm going to have a little bit of dressing, a little bit of olive oil, whatever. Small changes. You pick your small changes. If you feel like you need help with that stuff, then obviously I do coaching, and there's a link in the description where we can chat and we can see if it's a good fit for you. But you just have to do small changes, and you have to stick with those for long enough to have them become habits. And then if you're process oriented, you'll be okay. So in summary, the first thing you need to do is you need to start small. Okay. The second thing you need to do is you need to build consistency. I've hammered it a million times in this video, but this is the purpose of this video. So start small, then build consistency. And then what you're going to do is you're going to celebrate the win. Once you've had some consistency on that one habit that you picked, that one change that you're deciding to do, make sure that you celebrate that win. And then the thing after that is that then you start to layer habits. So then you start to add the second thing, and then you do the same thing. Start back at one again. Start small with the second thing, build some consistency, celebrate the win. Once you're done there, then you add the third thing, and you can just do this on repeat. It's not that difficult. It's very, very tactical and very, very systems oriented. It's first principles thinking. You don't have to make it confusing. Just pick a small habit, build consistency, celebrate the fact that you've done it. Once you feel like you've got it where it sticks and it's part of who you are, pick the new thing and then do the same thing. Repeat those steps. And then next thing you know, you've shifted your whole identity. You've become all of these different habits all bundled into one person. And then you look back and you realize, wow, I've just become a healthy person that does healthy things. Little by little, it took a while maybe, but I've become this healthier person that does healthier things. And because of that, I've hit my goal weight. I'm lean, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm youthful. I'm supporting my longevity. I'm doing all of these different things that are optimizing my health. And by the way, I've talked about this a lot, but when you optimize your health, your relationships, your career, your thinking, everything in your life gets better when you optimize your health. I would love for you guys to comment the one thing that you're going to start with. Tell me, pick one thing. Maybe it's hitting your protein goal a few days a week, but you need to be specific. You need to say, if I'm going to hit my protein goal, I'm going to do it 3 days a week, or I'm going to do it 4 days a week. Don't pick 7 days and then set yourself up for a disappointing thing when you don't hit it. Don't try to be perfect. Aim for progress, not perfection. Comment below, tell me the one thing that you're going to do. It could be, I'm going to hit my water goal. It could be, I'm going to hit my protein goal. It could be, I'm going to go to the gym once and do a strength training session once a week. Anything. I'm going to do my meal prepping. It could be anything. Pick one thing, comment below, let me know what you're going to start off with. Like, comment, subscribe, all the basic stuff. And again, if you are in need of additional help and you feel like coaching is something that would help you to get to that next level and you're tired of just kind of doing it on your own, click the link in the description below and we can have a conversation to see if it's a good fit for you. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Next, you should watch one of these videos, or I also have a playlist which has all of my videos in there, so you can go in there and you can kind of pick very mindset-based videos, lifestyle-based videos, or even some tactical stuff on like what exactly to do specifically. So check out the playlist or check out this next video next. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.